Hello, and welcome to Shrink, the podcast for the mind. I'm Philippe, and I talk to the people who want to have a better understanding of their issues with weight and body image. Hi, today I want to talk to you about something that profoundly shapes our lives, and it's our habits. It's something I talked about in the past, but I think it's such an important topic that I'm happy to get back to it. I would think that habits are like the invisible architecture of our daily life, the automated actions that guide us from morning to night. They influence our productivity, our health, our happiness. But in fact, where do they come from? How do they become so ingrained in our lives? And most importantly, how can we change them when they no longer serve us? Let's embark on a journey to understand the science of habits, their formation, persistence, and transformation. So how do we create habits? To understand how habits appear, we need to delve into the psychology behind them. Habits are essentially behaviors that have been repeated frequently enough to become automatic. They begin with a three-step process that we call the habit loop. There is a cue, then the routine, and the reward. The cue is a trigger that initiates the behavior. It could be anything from a specific time of day, an emotional state, a particular place, or the presence of certain people. For example, the smell of coffee might trigger the habit of drinking a cup every morning. The routine is the behavior itself. It's the action you take in response to the cue. Continuing with my first example, the routine would be making and drinking coffee. And then the reward is the benefit you get from the behavior, which makes you want to repeat it. The reward in this case could be the caffeine boost, the comfort of a warm beverage, or the quiet time to start your day. The brain learns to associate the cue with the reward, creating a powerful craving that drives the routine. This loop strengthens, that's a difficult one for me, this loop strengthens with repetition, embedding the habit deeper in our subconscious. You may ask yourself, why do habits persist? Habits persist because they are efficient. The brain is always looking for ways to save effort, and habits allow us to perform complex tasks with minimal conscious thought. Once a habit is formed, it becomes part of our basal ganglia. That's the area in the brain responsible for routine behaviors. This makes habit incredibly resilient and difficult to change. For example, when you wake up in the morning, you don't think about opening the curtains. Maybe you don't think about brushing your teeth. It's all things that you do in automatic mode. It is a habit, something you've done probably for the last 10, 20, 40 years in my case. I'm 60, but then, something I've done for so many years. I don't think about it. I just get up, open the curtains, and brush my teeth. There are several factors that contribute to the persistence of habits. The first factor, I believe, is consistency. Habits thrive on consistency. The more frequently a behavior is performed in the same context, the stronger the habit becomes. This is why routines and rituals are so powerful. Another factor is environment. Our surroundings play a crucial role in habit formation and persistence. Familiar settings reinforce habitual behaviors, making it easier to repeat them. For instance, sitting in the same chair at the same time each day can reinforce a habit of reading. And then there are the emotional states. Emotions can trigger and reinforce habits. Stress, boredom, happiness, and other emotional states often lead us to engage in habitual behaviors as coping mechanisms or sources of comfort. And then there is social influence. The people around us can significantly impact our habits. We tend to mimic the behaviors of those we spend the most time with, often unconsciously, somehow adopting their habits, even if they're not the ones we're happy with. So knowing this, how do we change our habits? While habits are persistent, they are not immutable. Changing a habit requires conscious effort, and understanding the mechanics of the habit loop can be a powerful tool in this process. Here are some steps to help change a habit. First, identify and rate your habits. Write down for 2 days minimum, I would say ideally a week, what you do in what I would call an automatic mode, from the minute you wake up until you fall asleep. Maybe you start by brushing your teeth, or turn on the radio and make yourself some coffee. Maybe you then stay in bed and grab your phone to see if there is any notification. Do you start scrolling on social media as soon as you wake up to make sure you haven't missed anything whilst asleep? I also mentioned rating the habits, and by that I mean write down how satisfying the experience has been. You could, for example, notice that drinking your first cup of coffee is really enjoyable. So you would give it, let's say, a 9 out of 10. You may also notice that going on Instagram or Facebook has made you feel anxious or nervous, and you would give it a note of 4 out of 10. So the idea is that after a few days or after a week, you look back at what you've written down and you think, well, I can see that I do stuff. There are things that I do every day. They don't make me feel good. So how do I get rid of that? So really, identifying the cue is the first step in changing a habit. It's to become aware of the cue that triggers it. Pay attention to the context in which the habit occurs. What time is it? Where are you? Who are you with? What emotions are you feeling? Do you tend to open a bag of crisps when you're feeling lonely or bored? Do you tend to drink a few glasses of wine or any other alcohol when you feel sad? Then you should dissect the habit, or dissect, I think you would say. Once you've identified the cue, analyze the routine. What specific actions make up the habit? Break it down into components to understand what you're doing and why. And then it's about finding the reward. Determine what reward you're getting from the habit. Is it a sense of relaxation, a burst of energy, or social interaction? Understanding the reward will help you find alternative behaviors that can provide the same benefit. So for example, when I'm feeling stuck, I'm writing down something or I'm recording a podcast, sometimes I could be tempted to reach out for a snack. I'm not hungry, and somehow it would take me away from this thing that I'm doing and in which I feel like I'm stuck. And well, if I know that the reward I will get is being distracted from something that I don't know how to deal with, then I can find other ways of dealing with that. So for example, when I feel stuck into some writing I'm doing or recording a podcast, I get out. I get out of the house, I go for a walk, or I go for a coffee in a nearby cafe. So that's the way I've replaced reaching out for a bag of crisps or some chocolate or whatever is in the fridge. I go out for a walk. And replacing the routine, to change a habit, you need to replace the old routine with a new one that satisfies you in the same way and provide a similar reward. Another example, if you want to stop snacking on junk foods when you're bored, find a healthier activity that gives you the same pleasure. Like I said, for me it's going for a walk. For others it would be putting on some music, reading a book, whatever pleases you. Of course, it's very different. You don't get the same kind of sensation when you're reading a book or when you're going for a walk as when you're opening a bag of crisps and eating the crisps, not just opening it. So you'll have to be curious. You'll have to find out things that give you a nice reward, but not a negative one, not one that with time will become more negative. And then I think we should plan and prepare. Changing a habit requires planning. Anticipate obstacles and prepare strategies to overcome them. If you know you'll be tempted to skip the gym after work, for example, well, pack your workout clothes in advance and set a reminder on your phone. If you know you will be tempted to buy some junk food when you go to the supermarket, just in case, or sometimes the excuse is, I just buy it for the kids. Well, before you go to the supermarket or your local shop, make a list of the things that you need, the things that you feel like will be nice to have in your fridge or your cupboards. And then use accountability and support. Share your goals with friends or family members who can offer support and hold you accountable. You can also join groups of or communities with similar goals to stay motivated and encouraged. It's not really my thing. I'm more of someone who does things by himself. But I think, for example, if you're in a relationship with someone and that person likes pouring a glass of wine and opening a bag of peanuts every evening before dinner, and somehow it has become a habit with time, but something that you didn't do before you were with that person, and you think it's not really helping you because you tend to drink more, you tend to eat more, well, you can share that with that person. And maybe that person will be happy to stop doing that. Maybe he or she's doing this because she or he thought that you liked it, but in fact, they can do without as well. And then be patient and persistent. Changing a habit takes time and effort. It's not easy. It really takes time and effort, and I would also say creativity. Be patient with yourself and recognize that setbacks are part of the process. Celebrate small victories and stay committed to your goal. I know it's easier to say than to do it, And it will, again, I really want to insist on this. It takes time to change your habits because it took time for your habits to be ingrained into your daily life. I want to mention what we call the keystone habits and why they are so powerful. Some habits are obviously more influential than others, and they are known as keystone habits. They can have a ripple effect that will lead to positive changes in other areas of your life. That's why identifying and cultivating keystone habits can be a powerful strategy for overall improvement. Here are some examples of keystone habits. For example, exercise. Regular physical activity is a keystone habit that can lead to improved mood, increased energy levels, better sleep, and healthier eating habits. Healthy eating is another one. Developing a habit of eating nutritious foods can improve your physical health, it will boost your immune system, and it will increase your mental clarity. Sleep is also a keystone habit. Making sure you have a good sleep hygiene will enhance your cognitive function, your emotional regulation, and then your overall well-being. The same goes with goal setting. Setting and achieving small goals can build confidence and create momentum for tackling larger challenges. For example, if your ultimate goal is to be able to run a marathon, let's say, but at the moment you don't do any exercise, well, maybe you could start by having 2 5Ks walks a week. And then if you can succeed and persist in doing so, then maybe you can start running a bit during these walks. And then you will eventually find out that you enjoy that, and your walks or your runs will become longer and more frequent. But you will build your confidence by achieving smaller goals, and once you will feel better about yourself because you've achieved them, you can move on slowly at your pace, slowly or not, in fact, to larger goals. Another keystone habit could be mindfulness and meditation. If you practice it, it can reduce your stress, increase your focus, and promote emotional stability. So you won't notice these changes straight away. I mean, you will feel good after doing a meditation, maybe not the first time, maybe it will take a few attempts before you feel good about it, but then it will have this ripple effect that I talked about earlier. And altogether you will feel better. 2 effective techniques for habit change are habit stacking and environmental design. Let's start with habit stacking. This involves linking a new habit to an existing one. By leveraging the established routine of an old habit, you can make it easier to adopt a new behavior. For example, if you already have a habit of brushing your teeth every morning, like I mentioned earlier, well, you could stack a new habit of doing 10 push-ups immediately afterwards. I don't do that, but I think it's a good one. I mean, I don't do that because after brushing my teeth, I like to read the news. And then after reading the news, I feel like it's the right time for me to go for a walk. So this is just an example. I'm not suggesting everyone should do 10 push-ups after brushing their teeth. But you understand what I mean by that. So I've mentioned habit stacking, and now I'm going to talk in a few words about environmental design. Shaping your environment to support your desired habits can significantly increase your chances of success. This might involve removing temptations, such as keeping unhealthy snacks out of the house, for example, or creating cues for positive habits, like placing a book on your bedside table so that you feel more likely to read before you go to bed. I would also recommend to create some kind of friction so that you don't do things in automatic mode. For example, I noticed that I was tempted to go too often on Instagram. So I've now somehow hidden the Instagram app on my phone. I mean, I know where it is, but I don't do it in such an automatic mode. And it works. It works for me anyway. As I mentioned before, changing habits is not without its challenges. So here are some common obstacles and some strategies to overcome them. The lack of motivation. To stay motivated, focus on the long-term benefits of the new habit and remind yourself why you want to make the change. Visualize the positive outcomes and keep your goals in mind. Time constraints. Many people struggle to find time for new habits. So that's why you should start with small and gradually increase your commitment. Even a few minutes a day can make a difference and build momentum. A big one is negative self-talk. So be mindful of your inner dialogue. Replace negative thoughts with positive affirmations and focus on your progress rather than perfection. You know, if you have this kind of dialogue with yourself where you think, oh, I'm a failure, I will never be able to reach that goal, or that's the story of my life, I start something and then I stop, well, that's not going to help for sure. This is really going to reinforce the idea that you're not good enough to change your habit or your habits. Social pressure can be another challenge. So make sure you surround yourself with supportive people who encourage your new habits. Communicate your goals to a friend and family and seek out for like-minded individuals who share your aspirations. It can very well be that, whilst you're trying to changing your habits, it will confront your friends or some of your friends. Let's say if you're used to go for a drink after work with some of your work colleagues, and suddenly you're not going anymore because you think it doesn't benefit you, or you're going but you're not having 2 or 3 pints of lager like you used to, well, it's going to confront them somehow, and it might be challenging for them to see that you're changing your habits. It's like you're not part of the gang anymore. You're not, I'm not saying again that this is going to be easy. The people we have around us can be helpful or they can be unhelpful. But anyway, the more you explain why you're doing things, the more you explain how you tend to do them, the most likely you are to keep the same friends and maybe encourage them to change their own habits. But that's not your mission. It should never be your mission. It's theirs. In your attempts to changing your habits, there will be setbacks. You have to accept that setbacks are a natural part of the process. Rather than giving up, use them. Use them as a learning opportunity. Reflect on what went wrong and adjust your strategy accordingly. Tell yourself, okay, I've tried this. It did work for a while, but then it didn't at some point. So why? What happened? Was my goal too ambitious, or did I want to change my habits too quickly? How am I going to change things so that it will be easier for me to change these habits? It might take longer, but I will achieve it. In conclusion, habits are the building blocks of our lives. They shape our actions, they influence our decisions, and they determine our overall well-being. By understanding how habits form, persist, and change, we can take control of our behaviors and create a life that aligns with our goals and values. Remember, changing habits is a journey that requires patience, persistence, and self-compassion. Start small, stay committed, and celebrate every step forward. Thank you for listening, and I wish you all the best in your journey to build better habits. And as usual, if you're struggling with something, or if there is something you'd like more information about, or some question, any question, don't hesitate. Send me an email or send me a message on Instagram, for example, and I will be more than happy to answer you and see if I can help in any way. Thank you again.